Good afternoon, everyone. Today, we are going to present a study about the use of digital technology in early childhood education, especially how young children and teachers engage with it in learning and play. As we know, digital technology has become an important part of children's everyday lives. However, its role in early childhood education is still widely discussed and sometimes debated. Before we start our presentation, let us introduce ourselves. Start with me. Okay, my name is Zahra Kartika with a Trilas ID number 057.
And my name is Muhammad Arkan Abiyyu. My student ID is 165.
And my name is Talitha Lathifah N, and my last ID number is 211.
Next. Okay, now I will start with the introduction by explaining why this topic is important for the researcher. Well, for the first point is growing digital presence in childhood. Today, digital technology is already a natural part of children. Young children interact with devices like tablet, smartphone, and any digital media from an early age. Because of this, their ways of playing, learning, and socializing are changing to be more modern. This is why it becomes more important to understand how technology influences early childhood development. And the point two is a gap between home and educational context. Well, it's however, there's a gap between children's experiences at home and in educational settings. At home, children often use technology freely and actively. We know, but in early childhood education and care settings, technology is something limited or used differently. This creates is a disconnect where children's real experiences are not fully supported in the classroom. And the point three is pedagogical tensions and need for clarity. In addition, there are still debates about educators. Some believe digital technology may disturb traditional play-based learning, but while others see it as a valuable tool. It's because of this tension, teachers may feel unsure about how to use technology effectively. Therefore, research is needed to provide clearly guidance for integrating technology into early childhood education. Next. Okay, next is abstract. We start with point one is study, focus, and objective. This study focus on how children and teachers use digital technology together in early childhood education settings. The main goal is to identify patterns and key as a perspective from previous research, especially how technology supports play, learning, and interaction. And point two is key findings. The study found several important points. First is digital technology can become part of children's play and learning, and the second is teachers play a very important role, especially their knowledge and beliefs about technology. Third, there is still have a gap between home and school experiences. And finally, children are not just users anymore, but also creators, for example, making a digital story or content. Something like that. And then the point three is conclusions. In conclusions, digital technology has strong potential to support learning in early childhood education. Its success depends on how teachers use it, and it needs to be applied carefully, thoughtfully, in ways that match children's real experience, so it's not come negatively. Next.
Okay, the next I will present and explain to you about research objective or the aim for this research. The first point is main research question of the study is what are the main perspectives from research that explore how young children and teachers engines together with digital technology in early childhood education. This question indicates that the study is exploratory and aims to map the phenomenon critically. While the question is clear and focused, it remains quite broad, allowing for multiple interpretation. And the second of this point is research hypothesis. This study does not explicitly formulate a hypothesis because it is a literary field. However, implicitly, it assumes that the interaction between children and teachers with digital technology involves multiple complex and diverse perspectives. From a critical standpoint, the absence of a hypothesis limits the study's ability to explain causal relationship, but it is still appropriate for exploratory purpose. Okay, next point. Okay, the top of this point is significance of the research. This research is important because it addresses gaps in previous studies, particularly the lack of focus on collaborative interaction between children and teachers in the use of digital technology. Moreover, the rapid development of digital technology in young children makes the study highly relevant of modern educational context. Critically, the study holds strong significance due to its alignment with current educational needs. Okay, the last of this point is contribution of research. There is 4 point. For main contribution of this study are identifying 5 key perspectives on the use of digital technology in early childhood education. And the second is emphasizing that digital technology is not merely a tool, but an integral part of pedagogical practice. And the third is providing recommendation for curriculum development and teacher training. Okay, the next. There's 4 points of methodology for the research. The first is research design. The study employs a configurative literature review which aims to identify patterns and develop new perspectives from existing studies. This means that the research does not collect primary data directly from the field, but instead analyzes findings from previous year research. This means that the research does not collect primary data directly from the field, but instead analyzes findings from previous research critically. This design is appropriate for understanding complex phenomena such as digital technology and early childhood education. However, it also has limitation as it relies heavily on the researcher's interpretation, which may introduce subjectivity. Okay, the second is data collection method. The data were collected through a systematic search across several academic databases, such as ERIC, Scopus, and Web of Science, using specific keywords related to early childhood education, digital technology, teachers, and pedagogy. In addition, clear inclusion and exclusion criteria were applied, such as selecting only peer-reviewed articles and focusing on young children and teachers. The strength of this method lies in its transparency and validity. However, critically, it is limited by language restriction, which may exclude relevant studies from other contexts. Okay, the next point is data selection process. Out of initial 199 articles, only 35 articles were selected after a screening process based on relevance, titles, abstracts, and full text contents. This indicates that the study was conducted in a systematic and selective manner. However, from a critical perspective, the selection process may still be influenced by the researcher's subjective judgment in determining which studies are considered relevant. Okay, the last point of the methodology is sample or participants analysis. The sample in the study does not consist of direct human participants, but rather studies involving young children, aged 0 until 6 years, and teachers in early childhood education settings. In other words, what is analyzed are the interaction between children and teachers with digital technology as reported in previous research. Critically, this approach allows for a broad scope of analysis, but the variation in quality and research approach across studies may affect the consistency of the findings. Okay, the next.
Okay. From this slide, I will explain about the key findings in this article. There is five key findings. First is digital play equal real play. That's mean is digital play is seen as real play. Children don't really separate digital activities from traditional play. they often mix them together. And then the second one is there is role there is a gap between home and school. Uh, there is a gap between children's experience at home and school. At home, children's they are more used technology, but at school it is still quite limited. And then the third is teachers' role is crucial. The role of teacher is very important. Teachers need to guide and support children so they can use technology in a positive way. And then the fourth is technology supports learning. Technology can support learning, especially in literacy, creativity, and exploration. And then the last one is children as creators. Children are not just users of technology, but also creators because they can make things like videos or digital stories. And then the next slides, it's about conclusion. Okay, first conclusion is technology equal part of children's lives. So, technology is already part of children's everyday lives. It doesn't replace play, but instead makes it more interesting and meaningful. And then, however, how technology is used really depends on teachers. That why teachers need proper training to use it effectively in the classroom. Also, technology should be clearly included in the curriculum to better support learning. And then the last slide is personal reflection. After we discussed about this article, we found this article is very interesting because it changed how we see technology in early childhood. It shows that technology is not always in a negative way, but technology it can be helpful if it used in the right way. Um, this topic is very relevant today because children are already surrounded by technology in their daily activity. And then the article is also useful for teachers as it helps them to understand how to use technology in teachings. And then overall, we think this article support children's development, especially in creativity and learning. Okay.
Yeah, all right. I think that's all from our presentation today. We are really, really sorry if there were any mistakes in our words or pronunciation. Yeah, thank you so much for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.